And we are live. Ultra Podcast Z, episode 67 on this lovely, lovely evening. I am your host, as always, Manuel, leader of AJ Connections. And tonight we have a very, very, very special selection of guest co hosts. And I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves to you.
My name is Kitty,
I'm Sayuri.
I'm Callie.
and we would like to welcome you home in proper Maid Cafe fashion. Say no, okaeri nasaimasen, goshujin-sama.
I really hope that turned out okay audio wise, because that was that was very, very well done compared to the times we've rehearsed it. So,
Yeah.
we have a very awesome, awesome show for you guys tonight. As you can tell by a guest host, we are talking maid cafes. By the way, before we actually really jump into this, I apologize in advance if we have any audio issues. I was trying to sort them out earlier, so let us know in the chat if you notice any. Also, speaking of which, the chat is live, so go ahead and feel free to toss around some comments, and we will get to you as we can. But without further ado, let's give you a little rundown of what we're going to talk about tonight. We have a lot of interesting topics tonight. We're going to talk about a bit about our hosts and what some of their maid experiences are. We're going to go over maids in general. We're going to talk about maid experiences at conventions versus those in Japan, and the concept of moe and maid cafes, popularity of maid cafes, and some of our best and maybe some of our worst maid cafe experiences. So, without further ado, oh, their names are swapped. Sorry. So I wanted Callie on this side, but I guess I forgot that when I actually put her in. I know who they are, I swear. I'll get that fixed for you guys. Go ahead, and in the meantime, while I'm fixing that for us, tell us a bit about yourselves, starting first with Sayuri.
Hello, my name's Sayuri, and a bit about myself. I usually do the cooking straight kitchen on 5.1 Play. I've made things like omurice together, and I really enjoy doing the cooking streams because I really, really like cooking and really spreading that love for cooking because I think a lot of people can be intimidated, and I think it's a great way to connect between my audience and Maid on what to make in the kitchen and make sure to have a yummy and healthy meal. And then on my other full-time maid job, I guess, is running the Fanny Maid Cafe for Fanny Maid Convention.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And about yourself, Kitty?
Hi, my name is Kitty. I am the second head and operations administrator for 5.1 Play. I do a lot of work behind the scenes, but I also do stream as well when I have time. I do all of our scheduling, so we have streams thanks to me. And when I do stream, I stream a lot of Sims, other simulator games like Stardew Valley, and I have also in the past hosted live play D&D sessions with some of the other mates. I had like a battle mat and like miniatures and everything, so that was really fun. But yeah, I also work at Fanime Cafe as staff as well, but those two are separate. We're not affiliated.
We're very separate.
Very separate. let's start that early. We are not affiliated. I just happen to be a part of.
But I think that's what's so great about like the community is that we're not trying to be competitive with each other. Like a lot of maids, like I've been with Tea Time Cafe as well, which is an East Bay, like Oakland-based maid cafe. I think we all just want to really support and really bring that moe and maid cafe culture everywhere we go.
Nice, nice. Makes sense. And Callie, moving on to you. And once again, I apologize for getting you guys' names switched up at the beginning. I know who you guys are. I just put you guys in the wrong boxes. My bad. But go ahead. Tell us a bit about yourself.
My name is Callie, and actually, this is the first year I will be a maid at Anime Expo. So I'm hoping my senpai can teach me a little bit about what to expect. Yeah, that's all of my maid experience. I went to the AX once, but it was not particularly representative because it was like one of the first years. And also, my mother was there and she made me leave early. So,
So, you guys, of course, mentioned 5.1 play, and let's talk a bit about that. What is 5.1 play, and what makes it unique amongst maid cafes?
So 5.1 Play is the first online maid cafe. We strive to emulate the experience of like kind of moe maid cafe, like some of the popular ones like Maid Dreamin' and At Home. We kind of want to emulate that same experience, but online. So all of our streamers are maids themselves. They are really passionate about maid cafes and moe culture, but also video games. We're all nerds and we all love video games, so we said, why not combine the two? We also kind of one of our big events. We do our couch parties. We try to have at least one a month, where we gather 5 maids and our point one, which is usually a pet of some sort. Usually, one of our streamer Enju's very cute, adorable cats. And we get together and play usually console games. Sometimes we do baking, arts and crafts, but we kind of just get together and hang out and have fun. And it's really great. I love it, obviously. And I think it's a fun way to kind of get that maid cafe experience 365 days a year.
That sounds so cool. That sounds so cool. Like, you guys mentioned you guys do a lot of activities besides what you would typically get at a maid cafe. And Sayuri, you mentioned you do the cooking and stuff. So you can tell us a bit about how some of those like special experiences work.
Yeah, so we do have a number of different streams. So one of them is we've done like cake baking. I've made like omurice, and other things we do is I got when I do my cooking streams as well. So it's almost like we're eating together because we are an online stream, but that doesn't mean we can't enjoy a meal together. And I believe that having those kinds of like mealtime streaming sessions is another way to bring that May Cafe experience to you wherever you are. And then I know that our head of 5.1, Chihiro, she does learn as well. Because I know that, we're all very interested in anime and Japanese culture. And, she and I are both studying Japanese really hard. And for her, she's taking that extra step of also teaching people or just studying together. And I think that's the special thing about 5.1 Play, like whether it's video games, cleaning Japanese streams, it's really like us doing activities together with whoever is tuning in with us. So it's that togetherness feel and making it a very all these experiences you can. It's like together we are together here at home, and we're creating that home environment.
Nice, nice, nice. So that's everyone's maid cafe experience. And you guys both visit maid cafes as well, right? We mentioned Callie, you mentioned going to AX's. But Kitty and Sayuri, have you guys visited like maid cafes, outside of your own? I guess either here or
Yeah,
in Japan or.
I've sadly never gone to Japan.
Oh.
One day I'd love to, but I have been I've attended and participated in other cafes, as Sayuri has as well. I've also participated with Tea Time Cafe, but I also run a small college con cafe, YumeCon, here in Mountain. I ran Yume Cafe by myself last year, and I co-ran it the year before with Chihiro, the head of 5.1, and that was really fun. It was like a learning experience. I had never done anything like that before, so like big props to like the heads of maid cafes everywhere. It's a lot and a lot of corralling people. But that's one of the other things I like about maid cafes, and my 4 or 5 years almost now doing cafes is you learn a lot of really important skills, which I didn't expect. But it was kind of like a good to the
So for me, like I've been doing Fanimade for oh, I hate saying this, or I hate but love saying it because it's dating myself. Like this is my ninth year doing Fanimade Cafe,
Mm.
and I started off as just a because I was just trying to find other girls who liked anime. And back in the day, it's not like there's all these cool Facebook social media groups where you can just find people easily. So having that kind of small community of girls was amazing. And then over the years became staff and even and now end up running it now that I'm head of Math Anime Cafe. And it's been an amazing journey to not only create and push that anime cafe experience for this convention, but also kind of really foster this community for girls with each other. And I've also, had a chance to really work with Tea Time Cafe, which is a great experience as well. And their experience was unique because they were not married to a con. They were with Yobi Con or Sahi Con or Kraken Con. So that was an experience too, like adjusting to different settings. And then I also was very fortunate to have the opportunity to experience at Home Cafe in Tokyo and Maid Dreaming Cafe in their Osaka branch as well. And it's definitely very, very different between what's offered in America and what's offered in Japan as well.
Definitely, definitely. We're definitely going to cover that as well later on. And Callie, yourself, have you been to any other maid cafes besides, AX's?
No.
Not
Not that I remember.
that you remember. I mean, that's fine.
I've always wanted to go to the Fanime. I've always wanted to go to the Fanime one, but the line's always really long.
Yeah, that's unfortunately due to its massive, massive popularity, which we discussed here and there in the podcast in the past. Obviously, I am no maid, but I've been to several maid cafes, both in Japan. I've been to At Home. I think they only they have two branches I think now, but they had I've been to At Home in Akihabara, and I've been to one of the Maidreamin ones in Akihabara. There's like I think six, so I've been to like one of them or something like that. Um, and I've been to several con maid cafes, never fan maid, but I've been to anime expos a couple times and so on. So I think I have a decent grasp on maid cafes, and of course, for those of you who have watched our podcast in the past, you might remember she's holding up our little topic thing right there is little surprise guest host in the back there. But we have a little topic thing that's being held up right there. Is by Heidi, who's been on our podcast, who of course does make cafe stuff. But speaking of which, let's move into our next topic, which will be discussing what maid cafes are. And this is kind of an interesting one because I think this is kind of a loaded question because I think we can say what they are, but then I also feel that we could also explain what they mean to us individually. And I feel like at times those could be very different things. So we'll move to Kelly for a textbook explanation. Can you give us a textbook explanation of what a maid cafe is? And I don't know why I ask you, but just for the heck of it.
This is testing your maid
On the
knowledge.
spot, on the spot. Yeah, this is like this is you gotta like prove yourself to your senpai here. Senpai's here.
Uh, well, I mean, maid cafes are cafes where you have like a maid that is like a waitress, but also here to make you feel welcome and give you like an interesting experience. And like I don't know. To be honest, I'm really bad at improv. Please don't do this to me.
I know, like you're doing okay. You're doing fine. That also
I've never been to a proper one, so don't make me do this.
we'll move on to Sayuri, who has mentioned some of her experiences. Can you tell us what a maid cafe is, or well, the textbook definition of if you just looked it up on Google, what you think you would see under what a maid cafe is?
Okay, so I would say a textbook answer for what a maid cafe is a themed restaurant basically. It's kind of like how maybe in America, like there's Rainforest Cafe. Yeah, something like Rainforest Cafe. Like you're really in like this atmosphere. You're put into this atmosphere, and this atmosphere in this case is your home basically. And so it's really about that hospitality. And a maid cafe is where your servers are your maids, and their job is to make you feel at home, comfortable, relaxed, but also be delighted as well as you converse about your day, you get to unwind, and you can play games as well and see them sing and dance because they do performances as well, and definitely play games too, and hopefully win prizes when you win the games.
I remember. It's funny because I don't know if I just didn't purchase the right, like, because you do buy different things when you go to maid cafes, but I've never played a game in a Japanese maid cafe, even though I know those do happen, because when we've gone to like do some interviewee type things, they've mentioned them and we've played some then, just never when I went on my own. I don't know why that is, but that of course is
Just
very
gotta keep throwing money at them.
exactly.
Everything is a microtransaction. Another
Exactly.
another textbook but off the mark thing is when you go to an anime cafe in Japan, everything is a microtransaction.
Yes. Uh, so all of you who are talking about, if you go to Anime Expo, I think Fanime is free, isn't it? Am I mistaken? Which is why it's the line so long, correct?
You pay for the food, so there's no
Okay.
like ticket price. You do have to have a convention
Yeah,
badge to
exactly.
get in, but you pay for the food.
Okay.
So it's not super expensive, but you still do pay for something.
So you pay for something. But my point, my point mentioning is that whenever you see like those ticket prices, for all these maid cafes or whatnot, just rest assured that you're still paying far less than you would pay in Japan for a very similar experience. There are many differences that
Yeah.
we'll talk about later, but yeah. We touched about maid dreaming and at home and some of the other big ones. Can
I
you?
like to personally compare it to Disneyland. So when I tell people I do maid cafes, the first thing, especially if they're American, the first thing is, oh, I like a French maid, oh, she's gonna clean my house and she's gonna look hot while doing it, which is totally not the case. It's kind of sad we have that kind of connotation in America, but they're very family friendly places. There's like no touching at all.
Yeah.
You will get in trouble. There's no touching. There's no like physical contact whatsoever. Even when you take the pictures, like none of that. But I like to kind of liken it to Disneyland because it's like an experience. In Disneyland, when you go have dinner with Mickey Mouse or Goofy or whatever, you got the buffet and they come around to your table and you take pictures and you talk to them and they sign your little autograph book. It's really similar to that. In a maid cafe, you get a lot more interaction with the maid. You get to play games and stuff like that. Unless you're manual, apparently.
I know. Apparently, I didn't know how to do it right. Didn't slip him enough for the 1,000 yen, 10,000 yen notes.
But I kind of like to liken it to that because I feel like it's kind of something that a lot of people understand. And a lot of people are like, oh, I've done that. That's like something that I've done. So I feel like it. And when you say Disneyland, nobody thinks like sexy Mickey Mouse. So it's kind of like a very.
We hope so. Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like a very wholesome way to liken maid cafe. That's how I like to do it.
That's a very interesting way to put it. I'm probably have to steal that in the future because that's a very
I've had to explain it to a lot of people, and I feel like everybody knows what Disneyland is.
no. I've had to explain it as well. Like we have a lot of like I mentioned, we cover a lot of make cafes at ADJ Connections, and every so often when I explain it to friends, like they'll see me. Remember we did this at home video, and it took forever to edit, and I took it to an editor because I didn't want to do it myself, and I had to explain to him what make cafes were, and I had such a hard time
Oh,
because like he couldn't understand the concept of a maid. Like you go to a place to
yeah.
yeah. Like you said, unfortunately, there is like a sexual connotation. I think half the time when you mention it in the West, in passing, um, which is very unfortunate. Like you mentioned, going to at home. I remember like first of all going to a lot of these ones. A lot of them are very coupley, but even beyond that, there are families there. Like tourists, whatnot. So yeah, it is very interesting the Disneyland comparison. I wish I thought of that.
the
Anyhow,
the interactions with children at cafes are like the wholesome
yes,
experience. Like you feel like a Disney princess. Like they look at you and you're like floofy petty skirts and your like costume and your makeup and they're like so working at Fanimade Cafe in past years we get tons of different people and families with children who come and have a blast because they get to play games and they get to eat food and so that's another reason why I kind of liken it to Disneyland is because kids enjoy this stuff too. It's not just adults, it's not just people who like anime. A lot of people who come into cafes have no idea what it is, no idea what to expect, so it's our job to kind of give them an amazing experience. So it's a lot of pressure sometimes, but it's still fun. We still come back and do it.
so it's funny like Well, let's move into it because I also start saying some other things about some of the maids I've seen because it's funny you mentioned that. I remember going to At Home and one of the maids had like actually was it At Home? Doesn't matter. But I went to a maid cafe and one of the maids had like a sloth that was like hanging from her, like like on her like around the strap of her like her apron. And there was a kid there. Was like, oh look, there's a sloth, and he was playing with the sloth, and she was interacting with a child, and it was so adorable. And I was like, oh look at that. Um, but that segues a bit into the next topic about some of the different maid experiences that you would get at a convention or at an event. We didn't mention that. I don't know if we mentioned it. If you mentioned it in passing, we didn't talk about this. But you guys have 5.1 Play have done a pop up, correct?
Yeah. So back in April, we did our first pop-up event. It was very ambitious of us, but we did it, and the turnout was like better than we could have ever expected. We partnered with. I actually have my rosette from the event. You can't see it because all the glare, but I made rosettes for all of the staff and for the wonderful owner of Crown and Crumpet in San Francisco. They're known for holding a lot of like Lolita events. They're really big in the Lolita community here in San Francisco specifically. But they are right in the heart of Japantown, and so we partnered with them during the first Sunday, I believe it was, of the Cherry Blossom Festival, and we did a 1 day only maid cafe, and it was amazing. We had a turn like more people than we expected now. At some points in the day, we were full beyond capacity. It was amazing. And we got so much great feedback, and we just learned a lot during the process. As I said, it was very ambitious of us, but we did it. We made it through, and we made some wonderful memories. And we hope to do maybe another event like that in the future. But we also do other smaller live events where we go to the cosplay gatherings in the area. Last year we paneled at Mag here in Santa Clara.
Oh.
So that kind of stuff. We've also done panels at other smaller high school and college conventions as well. But yeah, you may see us out in the real world sometimes if you're here in the Bay Area. We are planning on hopefully doing some other fun events in over this coming summer, but nothing has been quite confirmed yet, so I sadly can't talk about.
Oh yeah, of course.
Keep ears peeled.
Um, so moving on to some of the differences because like I mentioned, like you guys had that pop up, so there are some um Make Cafe experiences you guys had in person. Obviously, you guys also do the Fanimate thing, but we want to focus a bit on 5.1 Play. But so Sayuri, tell us some of the differences perhaps that you can notice between a maid cafe in Japan, like your typical maid dreaming experience, versus what you would probably see at a convention or a pop up or whatnot.
Yeah. So I want to keep the audience in mind that in Japan, like a meat cafe is a full-on licensed restaurant
Mm.
establishment. So already that's probably the biggest difference, being able to serve food and decorate the interior any way they want, and they can actually, they afford to because that's their business. They
Yeah.
do have a cash coming in, and then because you are paying for employees to be your servers, you can enlist very strict uniform standards as well to your employees, and you basically can just make all the calls and say like, this is what we expect, this is what you need to perform, and it is a full-on production versus the ones in America, like at least the ones that I've experienced with Tea Time or with Fanmade or with 5.1, is that we don't have that kind of like business license luxury, but we do have the support of either our donors or the cons we partner with, and definitely with Fanimade itself. We're partnered with them, so we get a location for Fanimade quite nice at the Fairmont Hotel. So it's and also the Fairmont Hotel will help cater the food for us.
Mm.
But because again, the logistics of in a business is that we are not serve safe certified, so we can't handle food. We can't do the signature omelet rice drawing as you but we do our best as a convention to bring what we can, which is the signature greeting when we say welcome home. We do that. We have the checkies, which is the Polaroids that you can take pictures, and you can only take those pictures like in the photo corner. We don't allow any recording at all. And then we also have, obviously, like we do ask that all our volunteers to don a certain standard, like the standard like black base, white apron type of uniform. And we also do live as well, where girls will dance and they will sing or both at the same time. And I think what's part of the beauty of, at least for anime convention maid cafes, is that you get a lot of diversity. You get a lot of diversity. It's not that production thing. When you're meeting these girls, you are you're really meeting a part of a real girl who is, who dons on this moe persona on top of that additional layer. So I think that's a very unique experience that you would get at a convention cafe that you definitely would not get at a Japanese cafe.
That's very true. That's very true. Like I said, there's both pluses and minuses as well to it. It's very funny you mentioned the the signature on like the almond rice type thing, or with it's usually done in ketchup for those who don't know like that experience. Um, and this is my random little aside here. I'm not a huge fan of ketchup. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this kind of thing when you put ketchup on like on like eggs. Or is anyone an egg on ketchup person? I don't know if this is too
I
OT.
love eggs on ketchup.
I can't.
But if you don't like the ketchup, you can use the demi-glace sauce or hayashi rice sauce too. And that's a nice savory alternative.
I wish I would have known that. Yeah, I just remember
When
like
you get the omo rice, isn't there ketchup in the rice in the omelet?
It's like a very little amount,
Yeah.
just to season the rice.
But when you draw on it
Or
though,
next time when you bring,
go ahead.
you can't. How about this? Next time you go to a maid cafe, bring a bottle of tapatio or sriracha or sriracha. Bring the sriracha and have them draw with the sriracha.
Oh my god, I
Oh my
should do
gosh.
that. No, because we
That'd
did
be so funny.
we did an interview thing with Hitomi, who's like the head maid from At Home, and I told the story before on the podcast. This is my little
My
aside.
goddess.
And she served us, and she drew on the rice for us, and like we're eating it. And it's like, do you want some? And I'm like, I really don't because it's covered in ketchup. But it's like, I really don't. But I ate. No, exactly. So I had
God.
to. I had to. I was like, just don't like smile. Don't make a face. So yeah, that's my that's
You're
my
so
big
ungrateful.
yeah, that's my big difference because
If Hitomi served me anything, I would eat it. Like she could give me like dog food and I'd eat it. She would like moe bless it, and I would be like, eat that.
yes, exactly. I was like, it's Mickey Mouse just to go for it. No, it's
Yeah.
funny because like I think of that whenever I talk about like differences between maid cafes and the U.S. versus the West. And that's one of the things I mention is like usually the food options are different. A lot of times you get like sandwiches. That's a very common thing. That's actually I don't think I've ever seen like not a sandwich or like not a croissant or something like breakfast cafe y. But so I remember getting that. I'm like, hey, what do you know? I might actually eat this and like not like not 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 eat it basically. I've only done that for the experience. I did it one other time besides at a Tomy time. Usually when I go, I'll get something that's a dessert. Why did my laptop turn off? Okay, there it goes. No, it powered down because I wasn't touching it. Sorry, that scared me for a second. I thought the stream died. Anyhow, um, so Kelly, can you tell us some of the interesting things that make Anime Expo's Maid Cafe a little different from anything that we
Uh,
haven't mentioned?
S Visions mentioned waffles, and I wish we served waffles.
Oh,
I would love the smell of waffles in the air while we're being maids. That'd be wonderful.
yeah,
But
like sorry to interrupt you real fast, but like um most of my sorry, I just want to because I'm gonna forget this if I don't say it now. I have a lot of maid cafe experience, and I spent a month in Taiwan, and I went to a lot of maid cafes in Taiwan, like a lot, because they're actually very very common there. And I don't know, they always feel very like easier to go to me, and all of them had waffles, and I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, that's a very big cafe food there. Anyway, that's my aside. Sorry. If you go to anything in like the Chinese maid cafes, and you can get waffles. So continue, Callie. Sorry to interrupt.
um, Well, the Anime Expo Cafe, from what I know, which is very little, about other cafes and like the experience of the maid, like being a maid there. Anime Expo is different in that like we have a lot, like times we meet up beforehand for training and stuff like that. We also actually have a really strict dress code. It's
Oh,
yeah, we have a very strict dress code. There's we're given a specific everything to wear except for the headband, which we have to make ourselves, which is has very specific rules, and we're allowed a certain the the bow situation is a little bit complicated, but we can have one bow that's this big. We can have three bows that are the size of our fist, or five bows that are like tiny. It's really
that's very
complicated.
specific.
Yes, this is really specific. And then if you can have cat ears, but they can't be attached to your headband, and you can't have any other kind of
Oh, I
animal
know. There we
ears.
go.
No, oh no.
That actually feels kind of
Even if they're,
limiting.
yeah, I bought these like officially at the at-home cafe. This is
Yeah.
where I bought my headphones. I'm like,
It,
oh no,
it can't.
disqualified.
Yeah, so we have really strict dress codes, and from my understanding, most of the Fanimade cafe maids perform like sing and dance. But for AX maids, that's like a very specific subset, and they auditioned like before we even started training, and they meet up for dance practice really often. I think maybe once every 2 weeks or maybe a little bit more.
Wow.
Yeah. So Anime Expo is interesting that you have to meet really often for months and months and months ahead of the con. So
Weird.
uh,
Um, it's funny you mentioned what's performancing? It's funny you mentioned performances. Performing. Um, that also is a very big thing, in Japan as well. And we didn't touch upon it earlier. It was one of my earlier like topics. I get asked this a lot. It's almost a flip of like being confused on what a maid cafe from an outsider, like stranger viewpoint is. Um, a lot of people confuse like maids with like idols or vice versa. And
Yeah.
that's a very interesting point, real fast, since we're talking about performing. Um, I actually heard this from Hitomi herself. She said her exact words, because we asked her about this, her exact words were like, some maids can be idols, but not all I mean, some idols can also be maids or vice, something like that, but not all maids are idols, and not all maids are performers. Um, and that's a very interesting thing to note because I've been to several maid cafes, like I mentioned already, and all of them apparently have performances. And once again, I don't know if I wasn't slipping the right person some money to be on the right floor, but like, I only saw a performance once out of like, the several times I've been to several cafes I've been to. Thankfully, it was at home, so I got to hear some of my favorite songs. But yeah, um, and that was interesting performance because it was a mostly empty floor like shift I was in like visiting during, so like I was trying to cheer along to the song and like one of the other maids was all like, huh? This foreigner's cheering along and he's the only one, I'm the only one, and I'm like, oh, this is awkward. And they handed us glow sticks too, so it was like it was funny. But anyway, what are some of your experiences performing? Sayuri, you perform at some of these, correct?
Yeah, I was fortunate that every time, so I guess my luck is opposite dreaming. I get to see a performance that time
Oh
slot.
really?
they like
Yeah, I mean, like once again, I don't know if I'm just doing the wrong thing, saying the wrong thing, paying the wrong person, but like they're
Yeah.
not bad experiences, but they feel a little incomplete to me when I'm done. But I mean, they are what they are, and I still had fun, so whatever. But anyhow,
Yeah,
go on.
they're really fun and it's super high energy. What's really nice about either both for both Maid Dreaming and at home is that within that restaurant they have like a very like dedicated stage
Yeah,
area, so it's very clear, and there's lights and there's like surround sound basically, so it's almost really like being at a very mini concert, and that's part because you're so close. You're not in like a huge concert hall where you're like many rows away and you're in a nosebleed seat. Like it's really an intimate experience watching them perform. And then as far as performing, like I myself perform at Fanimade Live as well. I've been doing it every year, and it's actually one of the most popular stage zero events in Fanime. Like you see crowds just really gather in front of the stage. It almost even blocks the main walk.
Oh yeah.
Traffic definitely gets stopped. Like the rovers have to come and like squish people in.
I'm
It's
one
like
of those people who are being squished in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
a
always bring
whole
my
ordeal.
pen lights.
Yeah, yeah. People will like get in the seats like beforehand, like they will be sitting, waiting. Dedicated people who come and they like wotage every year. Like we know them by name. They know all the dance. Like they are so. S Vision Sam, hi, you're one of them. um, so we have people who are like so dedicated, and it warms your heart. You know, I'm not much of a performer. I have pretty bad stage. I only performed once at Fanime Live, but I felt so welcomed on that stage.
Yeah.
And it's just a really fun experience. Like even if you're not the best performer or you're a little bit shy, we see a lot of girls kind of come out of their shells. Or like you see one girl, she's kind of maybe a little more reserved, and then she gets on stage and she like busts it, and you're like, whoa, I would have like never guessed. So it's a really fun way, like if you've never performed before, or if it's been a really long time, or if you love performing, it's just like another fun way to express yourself within your like maid sona.
Yeah.
Maid Sona.
Yeah.
Maid Sona. That's a really good term.
I know.
Yeah. And again, it's not. Even though our performances are not like, so we have totes. So we have like the main stage, Fanime Live that happens on stage zero, which happens at the convention center, and really big, and that's really like really hype energy that we're trying to bring. And then we actually, for the past few years, we also have in cafe performances where we do have a smaller group of girls, and they actually perform within the room of our cafe. And what's really nice about our venue is that we do actually have a stage area, so that does act at or simulate that intimate cafe experience where you're really up close and you do get to see the girl perform as well. Um, so there's two different experiences of seeing performances if you do attend Fanime or Fanime Cafe.
One of our fellow maid streamers and Fanny Maids, Midori, is in chat. And she says that performing with Fanny Maid is the highlight of her year, which is so sweet. Hello, Midori.
That's so awesome. It's funny. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go this year because we were doing press, so I wasn't able to go. I really wanted to go. I haven't gone in a while. But I recall even like I walked past it after one of our interviews, but I was carrying all this cameras and things. So I didn't really get a chance to really see it. But I remember like it was spilled out. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is a like if you've been to Fanime, it's on the stage there is on the second floor. There's a kind of a narrow walkway. It's not narrow, but it feels really narrow when Fanime Live
Oh,
is going
yeah.
on because
Yeah.
like I was like, oh my gosh, we should have went downstairs. We should just walked underneath this, but. But I wanted to see the stage for a second. But yeah, it's amazing how crazy popular it is. But then again, like we mentioned, performing goes really hand in hand with some of the maid cafes as well.
And
Because
even when 5.1 Play does live events, like when we did our pop up cafe, performing was one of our priorities. We scheduled in cafe games and performances so that every cycle that every fresh cycle of patrons they saw either an interactive game or a performance. And I think that, like Manuel said, like those are kind of like the quintessential, meat and potatoes of a maid cafe. You have the omu rice and the performances. Like
yeah,
they kind of go hand in hand. So even we're doing kind of untraditional live with 5.1, we still want to incorporate that aspect because it is kind of one of the pillars, one of the foundations of like a traditional maid cafe. So it is really important, and it kind of just like puts a nice little bow on top of your experience to kind of like cheer and get really hyped and watch, the cute dance. So it's just the perfect way to like top off the experience.
it's funny because she was gonna say, oh yeah, because a lot of maid cafes actually have like their own music. Um, like I don't know if anyone's been to Japan or been to Akihabara. I assure you, you would know the Maid Dreaming theme song, or at least the 20 seconds loop that they play outside of every Maid Dreaming cafe. I'm sure you know it, like by like
I've never been there, and I even know it.
yeah, it's like it's actually kind of obnoxious because like you walk past it, you think oh I'm waiting for a light and I had to hear that song until the light changes. And it's a cute song, and the first time I heard it, I'm like oh my gosh, I really this is really like I'm in Japan. And there's the maid cafes. This is such a this is like every like nerd weeby person's dream. And then like once you walk past your fifth maid cafe and that song's still playing, it's like okay. And like once again, it's always that loop. It's like the loop. You never hear like I'm like oh, there's a full song. Like, because the first time I went, I didn't know much about Maid Dreaming, but I'm like, oh, there's more to this song. It actually has like verses and other parts. Um, and At Home has their own songs, and they all have like several songs. Like we mentioned Dream Passport, I believe is the name of the Maid Dreaming one, but they have like albums worth of material. 5.1 Play should think about getting their own song, like like
We use a lot of royalty free music in our streams so that the Twitch hammer doesn't come
I
into
know.
our VODs. Uh, but maybe one day, because then we won't have to pay. So we can stop using the lame.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, I keep forgetting to move the mouse. I don't know how to turn it off right now that we're already live, but like my screen keeps blacking out, and I think it blacks out for the the Twitch the stream as well. But anyhow, um, but yeah, like I don't know, get a royalty free song, like just get a really cheap license and just write lyrics to it or something like you. But anyway,
I'll add that to our to do list.
yes. Um, so like it's funny because I believe one of the people in the chat mentioned about like supporting, the first year people. You guys talked about supporting some of the first year support performers. Of course, Callie here is our first year maid. So I think this kind of goes hand in hand with it's not just a maid or a maid cafe concept, but there's a concept that you'll find at some point if you experience a maid cafe, and it's such a hard thing to define. Um, and that's the concept definition whatever of the term moe, which by the way it looks like mo. So I say that because you would think everyone would know that, or I guess you. Why would I think that? But I still see people who see it and they're like, "Oh, mo." I'm like, "No, it's moe," but So
You have to put the accent on it.
yeah, it's like I can never. I don't know how to type an accent on the e, so I'm just gonna put mo. So keep in mind that's moe. If you're scanning across this on YouTube and you're like, why think about mo in the middle? It's moe. But any, anyhow, so let's. Who has a good grasp on what that term means?
Oh, I know.
Oh.
So moe is just like the feeling of your heart swelling with joy, and kind of like when you see a cute dog, you get that feeling of I love this thing so much, I just want to squish it, like I just want to like grab its little cheeks, and like that is the feeling of moe. And it's kind of like a pretty strong feeling for some people. I know when I see he told me, I'm like, oh, he told me. um so that's kind of the feeling that you want, that you, or that maid cafes want to emulate, is that feeling of just it's so cute, like I just want to be,
Protect.
yeah, I just want to protect it, or I just want to be it, I just want to experience, because it's just so cute and cuddly and sparkly, and so it's a dangerous emotion moe can be.
Oh my gosh. It's funny because for those who don't know, I believe, I mean, my Japanese is not perfect, but like it's the root form of like to burn or something like that, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. And like, it's a very, very complicated, hard thing to describe. I remember my very first experience of like getting into like Japanese things, and I bought a book on traveling to Japan the very first time I did it when I was like out of high school, and the book had this chapter on moe, and mind you, this is a long time ago. So the book, like, this is like, I'm like, what? And the book had no idea what it was talking about, but it mentioned anime, but it mentioned maid cafes as well, and it mentioned moe, and it mentioned. I was so confused by the concept because it mentioned, like the spells that you put over, or the you call them spells, right? Uh, you know,
Yeah.
because I didn't know that term until once again, like Hitomi, because we've interviewed Hitomi a bunch. Full disclosure on A to G Connections, we've interviewed her a ton of
So
times.
jealous.
Yeah. Um,
Invite me to the next one, please.
it's funny because like anyway, I mentioned on the past podcast we interviewed her the last time we did it, like year and a half or two ago, or something like that. And like, oh, we're on hugging terms because she hugged us when we were all done. And I'm like, yeah. And whenever I tell that to people, they're like, "You hugged Hitomi?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Oh
It's
my
like,
god.
and she hugged all of us. She's like, "Oh, so glad to see you guys again." I'm like, "Oh, what? I didn't know we were
National
like."
culture ambassador Hitomi.
I know
She's
exactly.
a national treasure.
She really is. But she was one who mentioned about the spells thing. I didn't know that was the official term for which you when you bless, usually it's food, but you can bless like other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, you
Yeah,
bless
so you
food.
have your moe spell, and when you get your food in a maid cafe, it's just food. It doesn't taste good, right? Like, you have to bless the food, or else it's not gonna taste good. Like, it's just gonna be like you're eating, blessing it makes it better. That's what makes it good. So, you get your food, and the maid says, "Okay, I'm going to bless it," and the blessing is oishikunare moe moe kyu. And some people change it or like alter it. I know personally I do oishikuna moe moe kyu because my name is Kitty, so I like to incorporate the cat ears into it. And that's kind of something that we encourage in American cafes. I from what I've seen, of videos and stuff like that in Japanese cafes, it's all kind of standard, but they have other. I know with the drinks, she has the shaker and she
Oh,
goes shaka 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 shaka, and then she
Yeah.
like pours the drink and it turns like purple and it's like amazing. But sadly, like, we can't do that. We all can't be
I
as amazing as
know.
Hitomi. So we will personalize our greetings to kind of match our maid sona, or the kind of vibe that we're going for. So that's how we kind of make it special since we can't touch your food.
Yeah. Mine would be like I do like oishikunyare moe moe kyu.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's funny you mentioned that the shaka shaka, like the drink thing. Oh my gosh, I remember have you ever got that drink at home, Sayuri? I forgot what it's called. Like there's a drink where they shake. It's probably more than one, but one of the drinks they shake it for you, and they do that forever. They're like,
I do.
they're like
They
shaka
do,
shaka
and
moe moe, and you have to keep repeating them, and
shaka
they're like
shaka.
And they
I
do
can't
it
think.
over and over and over again.
Yeah, but I think that's what's also part of that experience is that they have you do it with them too. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, you're not shaking the drink, but you're also doing the motions. You like, and that's the other part of the experience is that you're not just sitting there, or or hopefully you're not just sitting there.
I know. Hopefully not.
They really want you to be part of that experience. Like, I think that's really part of um hospitality culture in Japan is like it's two-way. This is like, in that moment you have this relationship between your maid and the patron. So, it's a really good experience to be even part of that, and that they make an environment where you can participate in it as well.
It's my little aside for like that drink. I can't remember all the things they say, but there's other things you say besides more like shaka shaka, kita kita, etc. etc. And
Yeah,
you
yeah.
keep doing that. And I was telling because I mentioned Heidi works at Home Maid Cafe. She's the one in the center in that little podcast thing right there. Um, I I. I said she said the story in a past podcast. And I'm gonna repeat it because I think it's really funny and it's worth mentioning. We went to At Home and we had a different maid that wasn't Heidi serving us, and she did this forever. And I was like, oh my gosh, she like when Hitomi did it, she did it like 4 or 5, like several times, but this maid did it for a while. And I was telling Heidi this later, and she's
Yeah,
like, oh
sometimes they'll go like pew
no,
pew one one, like they'll start making
exactly.
animal noises.
Yeah, and she's like, we were really slow that day. Sometimes when we're bored, like we'll just keep going for minutes to see how long the customers will keep going with us. So so yeah, I was like, oh, I guess she was just having fun with us, which is very cool. I mean, it's very interactive, and I don't know. That kind of thing. It's fun. It was really fun, and it's funny because Sayuri touched upon it about hopefully they're not just sitting there because I've talked to friends who've gone to maid cafes and they're like put off by some of the overly cute aspects of it, which is a thing. I'll admit I'm a little put off by that as well at times, depending on on how it goes, but um I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I think it's like a mark of a really good maid or a really good maid cafe is that, especially maid, I should say, is that some of them can tailor the experience if they feel like, oh, this person's not really digging, the overly, like, moe aspects. Let me tone it down a bit, maybe get a little, like, bring out some other personality quirks or whatever work with you. Any-
Yeah, it's kind of important, and it definitely is a learned skill. Not everybody, when they first start out, is comfortable working with those kind of patrons. And it can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes because you kind of have to wear a lot of different working in any kind of service industry. Like if you've ever been a waitress or like a cashier, anywhere, even like a totally regular, job, you kind of have to take on an awful lot of hats. Kind of the
Mhm.
same thing in a maid cafe, and it can be kind of intimidating. I know for me, my first year, I worked with a patron who was kind of asking a lot of very invasive questions, which you're not supposed
Oh
to
yeah.
do. And he was asking me like where I went to school and stuff like that, and I was not comfortable with that. So you kind of have to um, problem solve and still be um, not what's the word I'm looking for, professional. You're doing your
Yeah.
job, and you want to be professional but also make the good. So if you have someone who's asking you a lot of personal questions, being very polite, like, oh, sorry, I can't answer those questions, it's a secret, something like that. Or if you have a patron, I know there are some patrons who come to Fanime Cafe. They come every single week, but they just don't talk. They just
Oh.
enjoy the atmosphere and the ambiance, but they're not very social, or they just kind of want to play one game and leave it. um, and I know Sayuri has a lot more tabling experience than I do. I see her laughing over there. But it is true, you like gets the same amount of satisfaction from some people are satisfied with just a part of the experience, and some people want like the moe experience possible. Like they want to get their money's worth. So it kind of just takes a little bit to bring a person out of their shell, in a way that's not like, you need to play this game with me right now, get that ice cream scooper and start stacking these ice cream, like you don't want to be overly forceful. So it is kind of like a very kind of thin line, that does come with practice and stuff like that. But for you, Callie, your senpais will always be there for you.
Where's
So if you ever if you ever are in a situation like that, you can always rely on your other maids to back you up, which is another plus.
where do you lie on the moe scale, Kelly? Are you like one of the overly cute ones? Can you turn it on like?
Like that.
I wouldn't say that. I would. I like. I've. If I try to do that, I screw up, and then I'm mowing in the wrong. Like I'm mowing it clumsy. So I just have given up.
I mean, that's moe in
And
its own
that
way, I'm
is a
sure.
subtype of
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a subtype.
We did a dry run where we had like friends and family come, and the all the maids perform. We all do a dance, and I'm not particularly good at and we had to like we were all the guests and us were, it was just out of practice
Uh-oh.
studio. We were all just sort of dancing among the guests, and I kicked a guest 3 times.
You kicked.
Oh
Oh my gosh.
no.
I still feel so bad.
At least it's a practice run.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what practice
yeah,
is for,
it's
to
fun.
kick people. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
fun fact. Someone in the chat mentions Shaka Shaka Limbo. I gotta remember that. That's what I'm gonna call that from now on. When you Shaka Shaka for way too long when you're like bored apparently. But Midori in the chat mentioned that maybe that's why Manuel never played any games or saw any performances. I guess because I wasn't too into the moe-ness. For the record, I actually both well yeah actually all the times I went with someone else, and the other person I was with was definitely more into it than I was, but they made sure that I was playing along as well, you know. So, and obviously I'm gonna do that if Atomi's there, because like that was a whole different story. Like we were getting served by Atomi.
Of
It's
course.
like I'm not
Of course.
like one does not like one does not like Atomi, I'm not feeling this, and and ignore her. Like y'all would kill me, I'm
When
sure. I'd
she's
kill
like
myself. Yeah.
staring at you with her pigtails and her bows and her scrunchies on her wrists, like you
Oh
have
my
to
god. No, like I don't know if you guys have met Hitomi like in person, but she does this like when she looks at you and she smiles and like she scrunches up her nose. Like there's these things and I'm like, you're like I will protect you. I will do anything, like the whole Moe thing we were talking about earlier. It's like and there are some maids who are like that. Like Peace is a really good piece from Maid Dreaming is another one that comes off the top of my head, but Hitomi is like they're both like the epitome of maid. There's some maids that just have it, and you can't really I don't want to say be mean to
There's
them
a
because you wouldn't be
reason
mean to them
why
anyway.
she's travel ambassador. Like there's a
Exactly.
reason why she's a culture ambassador. Like she is like when I think of like a professional maid, I think like that's when you go pro. When you reach Hitomi status, that's when you know you've like gone pro in the maid cafe scene.
Hitomi status. That should be a rank for some of the the of like once you've been a maid long enough at some things here. I think.
Yeah, you've reached Hitomi status.
Anyhow, but yeah, so I like how I just realized in my notes here it autocorrected Moe to more, but that it's just a hard term to describe. Like we're trying to touch upon it. Um, Anything else, Moe, you guys want to add here, like that you could describe the spells? The spells weren't in here, but that's interesting. Callie, have you worked on your spells? Your
You
Moe
know,
spells?
give us a spell. Come on. I want you to bless this podcast.
I know, bless the podcast. We're halfway through, but go ahead and we're actually a little more than halfway through. But go ahead and bless us.
Oi, shikunare, moe moe ki.
Yeah.
There you go.
This
See?
podcast is delicious now.
I know we can all eat the podcast. But anyhow, so let's. Oops, it happened again. Right when I'm like trying to read the notes. Let's talk about the popularity of maid cafes in the U.S. Let's talk about that because I think there's a lot there's a lot we can delve into here because we talked a bit about you guys already doing the pop-ups. We talked about the conventions. Uh, but there aren't many maid cafes in the proper sense in the West.
Does the one in Culver City still exist?
I don't think it does. It's funny because that's the one I was going to mention,
No,
and
it's
that's
not anymore.
there have been many attempts to open them, and there have been several that have opened. And I think there was that one like in Canada, like up until
Yeah.
Uncle Tetsu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine in Canada it would do well.
but
They just have a huge Asian population in Canada.
yeah, it's funny. I actually didn't know that until somewhat recently. I was talking like we have somebody from Canada with NAJ, and we've been talking a lot about like the local scenes, not maid cafes per se, but local scenes in general. I didn't know that, but yeah. So, but what do you guys think about like maid cafes in the West? How viable do you think they really are? Why or why not? Because that's like obviously, to be fair, I don't think that's really an easy question to answer because you always think there is a market for it until you try, then you're kind of like, I guess there isn't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that. Well, I mean, you guys can talk, but I don't think that.
No.
I just don't think that like this, like in the West, we have like the same values as like in the East. So like the same things aren't sought after and like comfortable. I can hear myself. Um, but so it's like where in Japan, where a normal person might go to a maid cafe or a person might become a diehard fan. Like I don't know that there are that many people in the West that are like that unless they're really into anime.
And at least like I think it's also really I think it really plays heavily a lot in location wise. Like in Japan, like I know like we really hype anime, but like in Japan, like anime is just like another form of media. It's not necessarily like this is the thing, and like not every single citizen is living and breathing anime. And so and I'm not sure about Taiwan, but the huge concentration of maid cafe businesses are in places like Denden Town in Osaka or in Akihabara. And I think that place that the thing is that they open their businesses in locations where you will get a lot of foot traffic of people who are very interested already. Like the place that was in Culver City, there was a maid cafe at Davis, and there's also Akiba Cafe in San Francisco as well. But it doesn't really truly. They've either closed down or they didn't truly play up to that maid cafe theme, or they've had to adjust, and the waitresses don't wear the uniforms anymore. And I think it's like what I see in most common is that all these different places, Culver City, um, Davis, maybe, and like, well, San Francisco you think would do well, but like it was kind of like out in like the Richmond sense. It was like a different area, the way far away from Japantown. So for me, like I'd be very interested to see how well a maid cafe could do if they opened up in Little Tokyo or if they opened up in Japantown, San Francisco, because there's already such foot traffic for people who are interested in that kind of experience or have that kind of interest, rather than going really, really out of that way to experience those restaurants.
Yeah, I agree.
With mentioning Little Tokyo specifically, Arcane Maid Cafe, they're pretty big in the SoCal Maid Cafe scene, but they are not like a traditional maid cafe. They do pop-up events, and they don't just do maid cafes. They do a lot of cosplay themed events. I know they did a Kakegururi, whatever the gambling anime
Yeah,
was.
exactly.
I don't watch anime.
Yeah.
I don't watch anime. So I know they did like an event where they did like a kind of like a casino themed like cafe, and all the all the volunteers were dressed up as characters from the anime. So I know they do a couple events a year, and they perform like at AX or something like that. So I know they're kind of big in their scene, but I feel like LA is kind of more of a hub area. They have, a very big Little Tokyo. They have AX, which is like the biggest anime convention in America or something like that. So, they have a population of people there, and are able to like market themselves well, and they know their niche. So I feel like they're successful in what they do, but they're still not like a traditional, maid cafe where they have like a brick and mortar store and this is what they do. So that's kind of one of the things, like one of the negative sides about maid cafes here in the West, is that there just isn't the same kind of culture, the same kind of location, foot traffic as there is in Japan. And I would hope one day that there is, but like in this current moment, with kind of the sad you know tries that we've seen, I'm not sure if a traditional, like super traditional cafe would really thrive in America, or at least in this area, on the West Coast. I could see maybe in like a more densely populated area or a more tourist, area, maybe like I could see something like that maybe working there, but I feel like at least here on the West Coast, there just isn't the same kind of, people. So it's sad. We have to strive harder. We have to work even harder to make it a reality. To one day have a real man.
And I think another facet of it is even the ones that did open and everything. Owning a restaurant is insanely difficult, and the vast majority of restaurants fail really quickly.
Yeah.
So it's still a restaurant, and so 50% fail in their first.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a very good point. And yeah, it's funny. I've never thought about it from the restaurant angle, and it does make a lot of obvious sense when you think about it. Um, Also, it's funny because I can't remember which one of you mentioned it about like keeping. I think it was Sayuri who mentioned about keeping like the kind of the pure like aesthetic, so to speak, of like what a maid cafe is. It's funny because like I mentioned going to a ton of them in Taiwan. Um, a lot. Oh, sorry. Sorry, sorry. Anyway, a ton of them, ton of ones I went to, like, don't get me wrong, they're maid cafes and like, you get the maid experience, but there were oddities. Like there was one that was like, I hate to say it, I've mentioned this on past podcasts. It's like an at-home ripoff, and it's like, and it's meant to be. It's like it's not even subtle. Like they wear their uniforms and like there's like things that they copy, but even that one, like some of them would be dressed like just differently, and it was like I never understood why. And all of them, besides obviously the waffle focus, all of them also had like a focus on drinking. And don't get me wrong, you can order alcohol at maid cafes in Japan. That's not unusual. But I mean to say, like these also felt like you could go there, like and treat this as a bar. And it was not. It was still not like you still couldn't touch them. You still couldn't. You still couldn't like be a jerk. But you could still treat it as a bar. And and so like even then my point is mentioning all this is even like in Asia where you think a lot more of the authenticity would still be maintained, even one that's outright like copying like a very popular one in Japan, there's still a lot of differences, and I find that very unfortunate, but they are thriving, so maybe that's kind of like it incorporates some of that into it as well. um
I feel like again, it's kind of like location. It's in
mm,
Asia. I feel
yeah,
just
exactly.
the fact that it's in Asia, where it's in Taiwan. Taiwan may not have the same anime culture as Japan, but close together.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier for the culture to spread. So that's kind of the one up location wise, on us all the way here on the other side of the world on another continent. It's a little hard.
Yeah, and it's like, and speaking of Taiwan, like, and like, I also had the opportunity. I didn't get to go to a maid cafe in Taiwan, but I've gone to Taiwan as well, and it's just there's already such a strong like tie to, like, there's so many Japanese products, Japanese media that come to Taiwan already, and like, growing when I went to Barnes and Nobles, you'd maybe be really lucky if you saw like two graphic novels under the
Mm,
graphic novel section of Barnes and Nobles, and you would find a comic book. But when I go to the Chinese bookstore, there's hundreds and hundreds of comics already.
mhm.
Like, it's insta translated. Like, I think their anime culture has already been established long
Yeah.
ago. So I think like that kind of acceptance, that culture is already there. While here, it's starting to be mainstream. We're just starting to have things like Crunchyroll, and or like, or when if I say like I watch anime, my coworkers aren't gonna be, what's that? Like, so I for us, I think, at least in the West, or at least in America, I can't speak for other Western countries. At least in America, it just seems like it's a new era. It's a new
Yeah,
era.
definitely. I don't know. It's unfortunate. I wish they would succeed. It's funny the densely populated thing. Like I wonder. Everyone keep my freaking laptop. Everyone keeps mentioning Little
Good night,
Tokyo.
Beauty. One of our being to sleep. Have
I'm,
sweet dreams. Have sweet.
everyone mentions. Oh yeah. Oh, Midori's going to sleep. The one who teased me about not getting a performance or whatnot. Unfortunately, but I even wonder even if Little Tokyo would succeed because like um I live out here. I live like in LA, and I lived in LA proper, like right down the street from like Little Tokyo. And the area, don't get me wrong, it's like swinging on weekends, it's swinging like during a convention or whatever. But during the week, um it's pretty dead. It's really dead, actually. Like I know people who work at Jungle. For those who don't know, anime Jungle is like an anime store, and it actually takes over like a huge part of Little Tokyo. It used to just be one store, now it's like an entire plaza basically. But but I know people who work at Jungle, and they're like, "Oh, it's so slow today. They sent me home or whatever." It's like, we're talking like on a Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday
Wow.
like 2 p.m. So and a normal Wednesday, not like a like an AX Wednesday, not a summer Wednesday. So I wonder, I don't know. And then not only that, but like I'm sure LA rent is ridiculous. So I don't. Once you start moving to the densely populated, I'm pretty sure that's why some of these happen to be like in the suburbs or whatnot.
Yeah, because the rent is just really a lot cheap.
I know
Or you could start
when
small.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
you can
when
start
Five
small.
Point.
So many restaurants, they pop up. Like restaurants these days, you can go on Instagram and order like really gourmet croissants, because these bakers can't to afford a brick and mortar restaurant, so they start doing small home deliveries. You might upgrade to a food truck, and then you update to like pop-up events, and eventually graduate and even order store. So like I think technology and like the avenues and media that you have access to, I think there are ways, if anyone with some business acumen and some great funding could really just start out with, it can happen. It can
How would
definitely.
a made food truck
I
work?
know. I was thinking
I think this
everything
could
just
work.
yeah,
There
like
is
like
one.
There
There
is
is
one.
one.
Which
not
one?
really. Are we talking about like Okamoto?
Yeah.
Okamoto's not really.
Yeah.
They
Okamoto isn't
kind
a
of
maid. They don't. There's no
But
yeah.
maids
that's
working
like
there.
that's their shtick though.
But
Like
there's
they
but like for instance in Austin, Texas, there is a chili food truck that has a drag queen who works in drag.
So
So I think like if you did something like that.
I think we should look. I don't know. Like no one stole our idea watching this. I don't know whose
I
idea
wouldn't
that
be
was.
upset if they
I,
didn't
I,
have
I don't
a
know whose
maid.
idea that actually.
trademark
I know
TM.
trademark.
This is mine now.
I know, and all four of us are gonna claim this, but I didn't even say anything, and I'm gonna claim it first. But but no, really, that's actually a very good idea. I wish we thought about. I wish I thought about that. But because like you mentioned
I
Okamoto
know
Kitchen.
with
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna interject. But no, continue.
Oh, I was gonna say that we interviewed Okamoto Kitchen, and I don't think that they're because for the record, for those who don't know, Okamoto Kitchen is a food truck that serves a lot of like it's Japanese food with a twist. A lot of it's like it's meant to be like different.
Asian fusion.
Yeah, that's the Asian fusion is the best way to put it. But for those who don't know this, because when we interviewed them, we didn't interview them at a convention at an event. We went out to go to their day to day location because that's when they had time. And for those who don't know, they actually operate like every day. Um, and they only do the maid things at conventions. That's actually not a
Yeah.
normal thing. So
I've never seen a maid. I've only been to them at convention.
yeah,
I've never seen them have
it's actually
maids.
funny because I never have either. But then they hire them. They hire them. They pay them too. And I know people who have been maids for them. But I never seen one either. But I think if you had like an actual maid food truck, like where maids were serving you, and taking your orders and blessing the food before they give it to you. That's a very good concept. I'm already thinking of like food mate puns already in my head. I don't want to say them so no one steals them, but I'm already working out like these ideas in my head. Oh my gosh, sorry. But also I wanted to touch upon something Sayuri said a long time ago about like like things barely coming into being like culture wise here now. Is I have it in my notes. I actually don't have them open right now, so I'm not sure if we're even on the right spot. But I remember when I first started going to anime conventions, like gosh, like 10 years ago. Once again, I don't want to date myself here, but like 10 plus years ago, you
You
didn't.
can just be both of us, Manuel.
I
We've
know
been there. We've been
exactly.
there.
We've been there in the early days, but I remember like um uh, to hear the term, and I know this is slightly off topic, but to hear the term butler was unheard of. Like you never heard that term. Like and like you would hear the maid and host clubs, and they were almost always one and the same. Like you would have like a maid and host club, and you would have guys and girls serving you, and the guys were still being butlers for the record, but they would call them hosts because obviously you had like Oran High School Host Club, which was really popular at
That's
the
true.
time. And
Hmm.
if that's not the reason, I don't know. Maybe they just never heard the term butler. But
It's definitely the Oran High School Host Club.
that, and then even like I don't know. Like I went to several like, and you didn't see them like anime conventions that much back then. Like I'm not sure how long ago Fanimate started, but AX didn't always have one. For the record, AX didn't. Like I remember going to when yes.
They had butlers and slash hosts. They just were in the same room.
Oh, okay.
Because I went like I pretty sure year one, and I had a butler or
Oh,
host.
year one AX. I mean, I think you meant year one AX. I'm like, you were in. I don't think you were alive
No,
year one
not the
AX.
first year that AX
The
happened.
first year they did
they had a
anime.
maid
Yeah,
cafe. Yeah.
but so even in
But they got their own. They got a separate. Now they are a
exactly.
completely separate.
So things like that, things that the fact that we're barely getting like even at conventions that we're getting maid cafes as a standalone thing, that people are barely understanding that butler and host are two completely different things. Um, there's all these things like that where I'm like maybe even within like the more nerdy, more cult like you would think people would know. even within there, like these are still new things that people are barely grasping onto and barely like learning of.
Well, and butler cafes are like a whole different can of worms. They're an entire universe different than maid cafes.
Oh yeah,
And that could be like a whole nother podcast in and of
exactly.
itself.
It's really funny because like people I get asked that a lot like well we get asked it a lot on YouTube because we have some of our at home interviews on there, but I get asked it a lot personally, like people whenever we mention Itomi, whenever we mention like all the at home stuff we do, it's like, oh, it's like, oh, what about butler cafes? I'm like, I don't know anything about them. They're like, isn't it the same thing? I'm like, it really isn't.
No, it's really not.
So
No.
that's
It's
actually,
definitely not like a family friendly thing.
oh
It's
yeah,
definitely more catered to women. Like it's completely yeah.
yeah.
So the
What happened? You kind of, oh,
have
there you go.
practiced work together, and I can say at least I'm just gonna talk about the AX Butler Cafe, because I said that wise, Tech Cafe is really similar to the Maid Cafe. It's just that like I feel like personally the butlers are really good at being really charming. At least for the AX ones and the ones I experienced, they're really good at being charming. And the day show is definitely family friendly, but the night show definitely does get crazy. I've heard there's a lot of lube thrown around.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
Anyway, let's move on a little bit to our last little thing. Let's talk about some of our favorite and or maybe we'll do both. We'll do both. Tell us your favorite and tell us your worst. You don't have to go too bad, by the way. Tell us your favorite and your worst maid cafe experience. I don't know. Whoever wants to start. Who has one? Oh, I'll tell mine because I already got. I don't have that many, so a lot of them are central to my head, or central to my head. That sounded weird. Or right on the top of my head. Um, my favorite, of course, is. See, I feel bad because I want to say the Hitomi one, but I also want to say the Heidi one because like I almost feel like if I don't say
You
Heidi, like
better say he told me.
yeah,
You
exactly.
better
Like
say
I
he
want
told
to say
me.
he told me, but then I feel like Heidi be like, "Hey, what the heck? I talk to Heidi like regularly." It's like like mine wasn't your favorite. For the record, I think it probably was the Heidi one because I went there as a customer, like 100%. And once again, it was probably because it was a slow shift. Not so much, not only just like Heidi was there as well, but I got everything that except the game. But I got everything that one. I saw the performance, took a picture, got the drink, the shaking, got like things written. We got you got little membership cards and all that good stuff. And we were there during an event, so we got like trading cards. And I got Hitomi. Actually, I don't have Hitomi. My friend got Hitomi that I went with. I got Chimu's trading card. I don't know if anyone knows who Chimu is. Chimu is like the one below Hitomi, so to speak, like in the ranking. Um, as for worst maid cafe experiences, I'm sorry, Callie. My worst one was actually at an AX. And mind you, I was there a couple times, but like not actually the second time I went. Um, I knew the way they work in like like the more of a group table aspect, but I was just so like out of the experience. And I remember like at that one you had to go get your own food and buy it in a separate line. So I was in that line so long. And I've done that in other times we've done maid cafes where I'm hiding there because I don't want to deal with our maid who I didn't. It's just another thing. I don't know. I feel bad because these people are trying. So see, I already feel bad telling this story, but that was my one slightly negative experience was at AX. Now, for the record, I've been there 4 times, I believe, and yeah, 4 times that I actually like paid for as a customer, and two of them were really good. Or I didn't walk away feeling like I had a bad experience. One, I'm not gonna lie, I went there just to see Maid Dreaming, so I was hiding from my maid because I just wanted to see Maid Dreaming, and then the other one was the bad one. So those are mine.
I feel so
So
bad for your maid.
anyhow, Sayuri, you care to tell us yours?
I would say my best experience was probably my first time going to at home because like that was just so eye-opening to really see what it's really like in the wild, truly like what's the OG, what inspired all of this. And it was such an amazing, and like Kitty said, that It was such it is like a Disney character dining experience. You really feel at home. It's very like family friendly, and there's so much to take in, whether it's the decorations, the food, the drink, the maid, the menu, even the placemats, and the performances. Like there's just so much, and I don't think it can. Your first time's the most magical time. uh, and I don't want to say like I don't think I've had like say a bad maid cafe experience. I don't want to put a label on bad. It's more like I would say probably the most challenging experience when it came to the aspect of maid cafe is probably running a maid cafe, because there's just so much going on in the production to make it happen live. Because now you also have to worry about the safety of your girls, that they're taking the time to volunteer for you, spend money on a uniform, and sacrifice convention time to volunteer for you. And your job as someone in a position as leadership, or at least my job in a position in leadership, is to make sure is that that not only are they having a good time and they're getting an experience out of it as they volunteer, but also making sure that they're safe and that we prevent any uncomfortable experiences as possible. And unfortunately, we have time to time where we do have customers that don't necessarily know their boundaries, and I think that is probably one of the biggest challenges, is making sure every single girl is safe and that we triage all these issues for them. And so that's the challenges that goes on behind the scenes that you might not see, or most people don't really see or aware of, that goes into like putting on a production like this.
Wow.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. I like Sayuri said, I've never had like a negative experience, but there are challenges. As I said earlier, you're in a service position and you're not getting paid. This is completely a volunteer thing for us. It's different for Heidi and the rest of the at home.
Yeah.
But we are passionate about maid cafes, and we try our very very best, you know put 100% out there and give everyone a great experience. And it can be difficult because you are working with other human beings, and not every human being is going to perfect or exactly the same as the one before. But you kind of learn, and as I said earlier, just from participating in maid cafes, I've learned so many useful skills. I think that's one of the best things that I've come out of maid cafes, is that I've learned great social skills. Interacting with so many different types of people, doing different kinds of things. With 5.1 play, we planned an event. Like, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, talking with caterers, securing event spaces, all that kind of stuff. You just learn so. And I think, Callie, I think you'll really enjoy your time with AX, and any other cafes, that you choose. And you lifelong friends. You form the other maids because they're all in the same weird costume that you're in. You're all you all are maids. To other people you may look weird or whatever, but you're doing it together and because you love it. So it's like it doesn't even matter. You're all just there to have fun and enjoy the experience. And I have every single experience, even if it gets crazy or hectic, or you deal with someone who's not as into it, you still have, you know. So that's my my reason why I keep coming back.
Well, Kelly doesn't have a ton of like May Cafe experiences, but do you have any? How was your first one? Did you enjoy it? I mean, like, you said your mom had to make you leave early, so.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. So it was really awkward because when we came in, they like automatically either give you a maid or a butler based on your gender. So they gave me a butler, and I had to be like,
Oh.
I actually want a maid, and I felt really bad. Um, and so it was immediately really awkward. And then also they weren't like at the table with us because they were actually doing food service.
Oh.
Which I still to this day I don't understand how they were able to do that. But uh, so they were like weren't even at our. They were more like waiters than anything else because they were only at our table. Like maybe we just didn't stay long enough to actually get to the performance part. That's very possible. I think we were. Maybe they did sit down, and then my mom was like, "I'm not feeling this. I'm not feeling this, Callie. I'm really not feeling this." And then we just like walked out. I don't think we were even there very long, so I still feel really bad about that.
Oh.
But
Like I don't know. I mentioned my first two AX experiences. Like, admittedly, they were a long time ago too. So I think AX also had some like growing pains, like as obviously you pointed out. But I still feel bad about what I said. I want to like clarify it a bit. That one I mentioned to see Maid Dreaming was actually a little later, but that one I went just to see Maid Dreaming, and I didn't understand that I had to do the Maid experience as well, and I'll be upfront. I just didn't want to. It's not like I wasn't. I just wasn't feeling it that day. So I'm like, can I just not sit? I just want to go like see Maid Dreaming and buy their merch or whatever. Um, and uh and that was kind of a jerk move on my part. Oops. But the other time, like I don't know, they were trying. Our maid was trying, and I still kind of feel bad. Maybe I should have been more attentive or whatever. But I was also having a bad. I was also like, oh, this line for that food, and I don't know. I wonder how they did the food thing too for your maid cafe. Like maybe they were
I
just
think it's still the same. I think the food situation is still
well,
the
yeah,
same.
they were just doing mad under the table stuff where they just didn't care as much. I guess maybe they were like, nobody will catch us. We're not the biggest anime convention in the U.S. yet. Maybe they already were. I don't know. I don't
When
know.
did you go? Like
Huh?
when was that? When
Me?
was that?
Oh wait, when there was a line the line for food. This was all my Maid Cafe experiences. I think were within 2013 was the first one. Was that the one I mentioned? So or 2014. So this wasn't that long ago. So I'm pretty sure this is way after
Mm,
yours, right?
yeah, I think mine was 2009.
Yeah, exactly. Way after, because they were doing it like, mind you, my first AX. I don't want to say when it was, but it was before 2009. So, 2009 was the year I started going like all the time. But anyway, so those are some of our experiences. Unfortunately, I think every maid has their bad customer stories, and I don't think here's the place to air that laundry. Um, I've heard it. I've heard it from a lot. We actually have heard it like. Okay, I won't say who, but we've interviewed some. Obviously, we mentioned Hitomi, but actually she wasn't one of them. But we've interviewed a lot of maids who were like legit, quote unquote, and they've told us stories off camera. So so I've heard stories from all levels, from that high up to like first year maids at a convention to everything in between, and everyone has a story. So I'm sure you guys all do, probably several, probably more than we can probably fill a podcast with them. But that's a topic for probably not at all for another day, but that's a topic to be told in private. But so let's start wrapping this up. Actually, unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. Fun fact: if you ever go to like any of the big maid cafes in Japan, I think most of them are. The one in Taiwan didn't have it, but all the ones in Japan I've been to, like they have a time limit. Most restaurants do actually, to be accurate. Um, they have a time limit, so you can kind of consider this your or the end of our time limit. So real fast, let's talk a bit about some of our upcoming and future stuff. First of all, I want to hear a bit about the upcoming stuff with 5.1 Play. What's in the future, in the immediate future, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so we are, at least I help keep a pretty tight shift. As I said, I do a lot of the schedule and stuff like that. So if you follow us or join our Discord, we have an updated monthly Google Calendar, and we up Twitch events on our page for the month. So we stream not daily but weekly, and we have multiple streams a week. We do all sorts of different streams, all sorts of different video games, RPGs, strategy, all sorts of stuff. So there's always something going on our Twitch channel. And like I said earlier, live events. We're hoping to go to the NorCal Cosplay Gathering in San Mateo in August. We're also hoping to make an appearance at San Francisco Anime Festival in July. And we are also hoping to panel again this year at MagWeb. But we haven't submitted our
Hmm.
proposal yet, so we haven't heard anything from them. But keep an ear out. We always update our followers, and we keep everything pretty organized. So you'll always hear on Instagram as well. But yeah, that's that's what's coming up.
What's some of Callie's upcoming AX is next week. Um,
Oh my
Anime
gosh.
Expo is next week.
are you ready? I actually forgot. I'm
I
not gonna
don't
lie.
feel ready.
I forgot all
You're
about
ready.
that until
You're
this
ready.
second. Yeah, I forgot all about that till this second. I kind of wish we touched upon that more now that I think about it. Oops. Um, but maybe we'll do a wrap up, but you could be on it. We can talk about how your maid experience went because I've never. I would love to hear a
Yeah.
first year
I want to
maid's
hear
experience.
about it.
Yeah. But I totally actually believe it or not, I forgot AX was next week until I kind of thought about it when I came to you. I'm like, wait a minute, AX is next week. I hope you're all moe ready,
Yes.
mo ready.
I'm storing it. I'm building it up so I can convention.
That's a good tactic.
But
So
other than AX and my maid activity, um, please follow my or subscribe to my YouTube channel.
oh
It's
yes,
called Double Dorks DIY. It's really fun. I just do all kinds of like nerdy crafting. So like we do a lot of K-pop thrift flipping where we like go thrift shopping and like flip it into specific costumes from like K-pop stuff. And other just like random stuff. Like I sewed Isabel, no,
Isabel.
Isabel cosplay from Animal Crossing on a train, which was a hoot and a half. Um,
Wow.
yeah. Anyways,
Check
yeah.
all that out.
Please
I'll have
subscribe to
links.
our YouTube channel.
Yeah, I actually watched a lot of your videos recently. Funny enough, and you have a new one out, I believe. So everyone go
Yes,
go
we
go
just
rush
put one
over to
out
her channel
for
as well.
Wacky Meki's Crush.
Yes. Links in the description below if you're on YouTube. If you're on Twitch though, it's Double Dorks DIY YouTube.
Double Dorks DIY.
There you go.
Yes. I have to plug it because we have so few.
I know. Anything new with you?
It's almost
Anything?
not worth it to edit the videos, but I'm working. I'm working on it.
Fake it till you make it. Anything with Sayuri specifically?
Well, definitely please subscribe to our 5.1, tune into our channels. Please come and support us. We'd really appreciate those who can tune in and also interact with us because we really want to bring that
Oh
culture to
yeah.
365 days a year.
And
Yeah.
we are almost at 1,000 Goshujin sama, so we are going to be doing follow for our streams up until
Nice.
1,000 Goshujin sama. So hopefully there will be some like wacky kind of shenanigans on upcoming streams. So we're getting prepared for that. We just hit, I believe it was today, we just hit 900
Oh
Goshujin
wow.
sama and Ojo sama. So we're getting ready, gearing up for a great fun-filled summer.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So if you're watching on YouTube as
Thank
well,
you.
links to all their stuff. Oh, I unplugged my computer. Links to all. It's fine. We're almost done. I unplugged the power thing. Links to everything in the description below. Links to all that good stuff. For me, real fast, I'll be at AX obviously doing press stuff. For Ultra Podcast Z, this is the show you're watching, by the way. I think we might do one more episode before AX. I'm still a little worried because I'm stressing about AX myself, so I might not do that episode. But we're definitely coming back the week following AX for sure. And we'll have our Twitch schedule up soon. We also are planning several streams, kind of like ripping off of you guys, but similar to 5.1 play, what they mentioned. We actually ordered a Maid RPG. I don't know if you guys have played it, and
I have played it, yes.
and we're actually gonna run a
It's
game. Yeah, I don't know how good it is, but don't tell us because none of us have experienced it, and we're gonna run a
If you've
game.
never played tabletop games, it might be a little intimidating. There's a lot
Uh,
of so
oh, okay. I'm actually a little surprised by
yeah.
that. I thought it would be the other way around, but I thought it would be the other way around. So that's interesting to note. But so that that's one of our things. We have a ton of other things upcoming that we're gonna like do both on Twitch and on YouTube. We're gonna stream a lot on Twitch just to work some of the kinks out and get us used to streaming again. But anyway, that with that lovely last note out. You can support us on. I believe you guys have Patreons too, but you support us on Patreon, A to J Connections, patreon.com/A to J Connections, exclusive stuff like early interviews, all that good stuff. And shout out to Ed and Kenneth, our current patrons. And Do you guys have a Patreon? Would it be patreon.com/? Do you guys have one?
We don't have a Patreon.
Oh, you don't?
No, but we do have our Twitch channel. Twitch.tv/5.1 play or
Oh.
51 play. We have our Instagram as well, and we have our Discord. But some fun things are in the works.
Oh, okay. So
Stay tuned.
support them anyhow. Support all of us any way you can. And if
Yeah.
you can't, I don't know. If you can't, then just watch our stuff. I'm pretty sure all of us will agree on that. And I say that all the time. It's like even if you really can't support us on anything, just watch us on YouTube, watch us on Twitch. That's at the end of the day, it's all I really care about. And I'm pretty sure it's all of us really care about. And thank you so much, 5.1 play. Oh my gosh, what's this? We have a little mysterious guest.
I have a hair assistant.
You have a hair assistant.
This doesn't come natural. It comes with the hard work and hair.
Disembodied arm.
So keep an eye out on our A2J_info Twitter for any updates on the podcast, because we'll have them there or wherever you follow us. I just don't know exactly when our next podcast will be or our streams will be, but just keep an eye out for us. And thank you so much, Callie. Thank you so much, Sayuri and Kitty. Thank you so much, 5.1 Play, for joining us tonight. It has been so much fun. Thank you to everyone in the chat. I'm not gonna lie, we had a lot of technical difficulties when we started, and I'm really, really pleased how this all turned out. It's been a lot of fun, and thank you all for joining us. And I think with that, good night. And you guys could probably sign us out in a more. What's your guys' goodbye for? You didn't. Callie didn't rehearse it, but.
Yeah, so I'll reintroduce ourselves and then we'll do our goodbye. My name is Kitty.
Sayuri.
Callie.
And we would like to send you off. せーの、いってらっしゃいませ、ご主人様。バイバイ。